शन्नो मित्रः शं वरुणः शन्नो भवत्वर्यमा शन्न इन्द्रो बृहस्पतिः शन्नो विष्णुरुरुक्रमः नमो ब्रह्मणे नमस्ते वायो त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मासि त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म वदिष्यामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्भक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु भक्तारम् ॐ शान्तिः 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 ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः 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 Let's see the Bhashya here. In the last paragraph, very important, a number of connections were made by Bhashyakara, important, very salient connections made by Bhashyakara between Brahma Vidya and Avidya Nivritti. So what is Brahma Vidya? What is the knowledge of Brahman? What does it do? And what it the sambandha, the connection is that it removes self-ignorance. And so what if we say, let it remove self-ignorance, so what will happen for me? Samsara will go away. What is samsara? You complaining about yourself and you complaining about the rest of the world. That is samsara. And you feeling targeted all the time and you feeling like going under the covers and never coming out. This is samsara. You getting afflicted, feeling afflicted by every passing wind. This is samsara. You feeling that nothing is enough. This is samsara. You feeling you are not enough. This is samsara. So, Atyantika samsara abhavaha. The total absence of samsara. And then supposing if we say, okay, so what? Because this is a hardened jiva. Like a hard-boiled egg. Okay, the buddhi is like a hard-boiled buddhi. And so, the person is not easily convinced because there is a lot of resistance. So first, Brahma Vidya is going to give you avidya nivritti. So what? Well, there will not be any samsara, no sense of becoming, no wanting. That identification with the wanting nature is not there. So what? Okay, then it is the removal of fear and sorrow and freedom from guilt. That is samsara. Krita krite punya pape na tapataha. So that is samsara, where there is no guilt and no hurt. Guilt basically is not being able to sit with one's own omissions and commissions, not being able to accept them, not being able to be with them, not being able to reckon with them. That is guilt. And then what is hurt? Hurt is not being able to withstand other people's omissions and commissions towards yourself, towards the jagat, towards other jivas, etc. That is another reason for getting afflicted. So this, in any case, it revolves around do worship. Either your guilt and hurt both revolve around doership, because you can't stand your own doing or you can't stand the doing of others. Omissions and commissions, we are talking of doership. And then even if you say, I am suffering because I did not do this right, that is still because one is identified as a doer. So slowly, by quoting that from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad 442, Krita Krite Punya Pape Na Tapatah, Adi Shankara brings it back to the subject matter of doership. So, Ataha Avagamyate Asmat Vijnanat, from this knowledge it is understood Sarvatma Brahma Vishayat. What is the Vishaya for this? It is Sarvatma, which is Brahman. It is the Atma of every complaining being, which is Brahman, which is free of all complaints. And then Atyantika Samsara Abhava. And this is what Avagamyate, this is what is understood. And then further, Swayamevacha Prayojanam Aha. The Shruti herself, it talks about the Prayojana. Prayojana means what is going to come out of this. So, why should I study this? Because you see, if this is really not understood by many people. Even people who are very interested in Vedanta do not understand this for some reason. And you know why they don't understand it? Because it's not very clear, it's not very clearly enunciated even by some people who teach Vedanta. Unfortunately, this is glossed over, it's not understood, it's not transmitted properly. And that is, it's very unfortunate, because this is what makes the so-called options wide open. Should I go to, like for example, should I catch the nose or catch the toes in order to have Brahma Vidya? Maybe there are two ways of having Brahma Vidya. And, so Vidya already means knowledge. But how to get this knowledge? I have to stand on the head. Standing on the head is very advocated because the blood flow to the head increases. So we are very much in favor of standing on the head. That's not a problem. The blood flow to the brain increases, and hopefully one will come to the conclusion that standing on the head is not going to give moksha. Okay, because of the increase in the blood flow, one comes to that proper conclusion. So standing on the head, what will happen? You'll get other benefits, better blood circulation, and maybe, if you are, having certain ailments, they may go because of the yogasana, shirshasana. But it's not going to give you moksha. And the first part of this Valli, Shiksha Valli, is also not going to give you moksha, as we had seen earlier. Why? Because it is all about Swarajya Sampatti, Swarajya Prapti. What is Swarajya Prapti? The ability to control the elements here on earth. And then later on what? Later on, after one drops the body, what happens? Goes to a place. What is that place? Brahmaloka. Brahmaloka. What is Brahmaloka? A place where, where you go and sit, and then the creator of the universe teaches you Vedanta. Naturally, you will feel depressed even though you are sitting in front of Lord Brahmaji, the creator of the universe. Why will you feel depressed? Because you will get all this deja vu of having studied right here without having to do so much meditation, without having to do all this karma all this action in order to go to Brahmaloka. Brahmaloka is some kind of a outer recesses of heaven, some kind of a heaven where you are taught Vedanta. It's a Vedanta heaven. Okay? And what is this? This is also a Vedanta heaven, if one wants to study. So therefore, this is that orientation is the human orientation, is to go somewhere, get something, have something, and somehow I have to keep working. And if I keep working and working and working at it, if I keep doing, and then what will happen? Something I will get. This is the orientation even among teachers of many lineages. And this is why, well, the Shastra has to be studied very well, because Adi Shankara himself disabuses us of all these notions. Vedanta is that body of knowledge where options disappear in the wake of the understanding that there is a sambandha, there is a connection between the Vishaya, the subject matter, and the Prayojana. So this is the Vishaya and the Prayojana. Vishaya is, so there is the Vishaya is there, the subject, between the subject matter and the Prayojana and the result, there is a sambandha. And the subject matter here is, he reveals the Prayojana. And the Prayojana, the effect or the purpose that is there in the sense of the freedom from samsara which is revealed, that Prayojana is which is revealed. So there is a revealed connection between the Shastra and the result. So Pratipadaka, Pratipadya Sambandha, revealer, revealed relationship. Why do you need a revealer? Because you are coming in your own way of understanding this. Pramana abhavat, you need a revealer. There is no means of knowledge to objectify the Atma, to objectify the self. And the self does not need to be objectified at all, ever. Why? Because it is available. That's why I keep asking the question. It is ever available. That's why the famous question, what is the famous question? Are you here? What will you answer? You have to say, yes, I am here. And you don't need a certificate of existence. You don't need somebody to tell you something that you exist. That you exist is evident to you. So about this evident I, if I have to know myself, then why do I have to take recourse to a book? After all, I have to go within. These are all contending, what is that, Purva Pakshas. These are all contentions that one struggles with and battles with. That's why it is very difficult for people to take on this study as a serious and ongoing and committed pursuit. That's what comes in the way, because the connections are not clear. Sambandha means connections. So we need this book to reveal. And why do you need the book to reveal? Because the I is somewhat known. I am is known. But don't ask the next question. What is the next question? Who are you? What are you? Because if you ask that question, then we'll all be depressed, because it's a sad story. Sad story. Oh, difficult childhood, difficult adulthood, difficult life. Whatever I want, I haven't got. Whatever I did not want, I have got too much of. And this is the life story of everybody, with a few variations. That's all is there. Little variation here and there will be there. That's it. This is the story. And so therefore, the I is somewhat known. Like even the snake, that which appears to be a snake, the rope, sitting on the lawn. And the rope sitting on the lawn, it is sitting in a very nice way, resembling a snake. Maybe it is coiled with one part of the end out like this. So it resembles a coiled snake. And you go out, you forget that rope has not been put away. You used it for something else and it's still there, or you lent it to somebody and they gave it back when you were not looking. And it's there. You know that it's there. And then what? And then you immediately go out at twilight and then you see something. You don't see it properly and you jump because you confuse it for a snake. And that rope becomes the sitting duck for all kinds of mistakes, adhyasa, all kinds of mistakes. Mistakes having to do with, wrong perception. Somebody sees it as a snake, somebody else sees it as something else, a garland, whatever it is. So this is what it is, because you see, the thing is, if the Atma were entirely unknown, if the I were completely and totally unknown, then we wouldn't be having this discussion at all. Then no problem, we will go to the book and look at the book, etc., etc. No problem. And if the Atma were completely known, then also we would not have this discussion at all. Now the problem is this in between. The Atma is somewhat known, like even the rope lying in the dark in the form of 3 bends. 3 curves. Rope is lying in the twilight. So the rope is somewhat seen. That's why we use the time of the twilight. The rope is somewhat seen, but then not fully appreciated as rope. And therefore what? Therefore we have aropa. Aropa means superimposition. And so this is what happens. So so this is the example. And if we bring it back here to what is being discussed, an unknown rope cannot be cause of the projected snake. An unknown rope cannot project a snake, cannot be the cause for the snake that is projected onto it. Why? Because it is unseen, unknown. And again, a known rope cannot be cause for projections, because you know it as rope, and once you know it as rope, you cannot imagine it to be a snake, never ever. And similarly, a known Atma, we don't need the Shastra. An unknown Atma cannot cause any problems. It cannot hiss, it cannot bite, it cannot cause toxicity. Then again you don't need the Shastra. You don't need the teachings. So the teachings are needed primarily because of this partial knowledge, half knowledge, which is dangerous. I know there is something, and that something is what? Is self-evident, happens to be self-evident. And that something happens to be self-evident, and I know this thing, and I know this thing, but I know it somewhat. And since I do not know it totally, then what has happened as a result? Since I don't know it totally, it becomes a sitting duck for all kinds of mistakes. So the rope here, the technical word is adhisthana. That which stands in the place of the rope is called adhisthana. No translation possible. I mean, we can attempt and say the basis, the foundation, etc., but doesn't really cut it. So the adhisthana and the, that which is adhyastha, adhyasa. So the adhisthana, on an unknown adhisthana, you cannot project anything. And similarly, on a known adhisthana, nothing can be projected. The adhisthana is somewhat known, and that's why samsara ensues. Because there is free will, because there is a vivid imagination, because there are experiences with which one is connected and identified. Because of that connection, one thinks that one is subject to sorrow, one thinks that one's life is terrible, or whatever one thinks. And one finds oneself to be not acceptable. These are all the hallmarks, the symptoms of samsara. And so therefore, the connection between the book, the Shastra, and the result of the Shastra must be very, very, very clear. Because if that is not clear, what is this book going to give me? That book is going to reveal the truth of the self as Brahman. So there is a revealed relationship between the Shastra and the Prayojana. And what is the Shastra in the form of? It is in the form of Jnanam, self-knowledge. And what is the connection between the self-knowledge and the result of self-knowledge? What is the result of self-knowledge? The result of self-knowledge is understanding oneself as Ishvara. And what is self-knowledge? It is in the form of pramana. It is in the form of a means of knowledge to which you do not have access other than through the teachings. And so there again a connection is found. That connection is also very, very important, because you don't have access to this knowledge other than through the Atma Jnanam. So here the Shastra is converted into Jnanam, because the silent entry of the teacher here, which is not really talked about, but then which is very much there. So the Shastra otherwise becomes a book, just a book that one can read, and then you read and say, I have studied Kenopanishad, what happened? Nothing. And I have studied Kathopanishad, what happened? Nothing, double nothing now. I have studied Mundakopanishad, what happened? Nothing, triple nothing. So I know a lot of nothing, one can say, like Narada. So therefore here the Shastra is converted into Jnanam. How? Through the Vichara. What kind of Vichara? Pramana Vichara. Through an enquiry into the Pramana. Enquiry into the means of knowledge which the Shastra becomes in the hands of the Guru. The Shastra is activated into a means of knowledge. Just like you may have a coupon, and then you have to, the coupon itself will not give the discount. You have to get that coupon code activated. Similarly, the Shastra will give moksha only when it's activated in the hands of the teacher, who then converts it into Atma Jnanam. So that between the Jnana and between the Shastra and the Jnana, there is again a sambandha. The Shastra becomes Jnanam. How? Because it is in the form of a pramana. And what is the result of that? What is the result of this knowledge? The result of this knowledge is oneness, understanding oneself as Ishvara. So that is a pramana and prameya sambandha. Between the knowledge and what it reveals, there is a pramana prameya sambandha. The pramana gives rise to the prameya. Prameya, that which is to be known. And what is that which is to be known? That I am this Brahman, and I have gained the ultimate. There is nothing more to gain. This is what has to be known. So there is, these are the connections. This is what is called sambandha. Not a small topic, not for the faint of heart, but is something that really, really, really needs to be assimilated, needs to be understood in order to go on further. Otherwise, one is just giving some lip service, to the Shastra. Just like, in movies, when people meet, they kiss the air. They embrace and kiss the air. That's how it is. So here also it is just like a kind of a dalliance with the Shastra, which is not going to transform. If it is to be a transformative Shastra, these connections, the teachings, these connections have to be appreciated and understood. If they are not understood, then one is going to miss the knowledge. Like the person who kept going round and round a turret, in a fort, kept on going round and round, and kept on meeting the same sentry. And of course there he was not able to see properly, especially in the evening. And so the sentry said, "Here, let me take you to the wall. You keep touching the wall, and when there is a space, that's the door. Go out of there and then get down the stairs, and somebody will be there downstairs. It's a village, and then they will help you." And so he had, he was on the palace grounds attending some some function thrown by the royalty, and then he had trouble getting back home. He was trapped in this turret in one of the towers of the palace and outer towers, and he just kept going round and round. And then finally he said, "Yes, I'll do exactly as you instructed." And he kept touching the wall. And then at that moment where the opening was, suddenly he started to have a itch in the back. and an itch is that which has to be immediately attended to. Okay, so here, so he nicely gave himself a wonderful scratch. One hand was still at the wall, but then he said, no, I need both the hands, because certain portions of the back are very, very annoyingly difficult to reach. And so with both the hands he nicely scratched himself. Unfortunately kept walking and missed the opening. And this story, the ancient story, this story is repeatedly told, because this is if these connections are not understood, it's a missed opening, it's a missed chances, it's a missed opportunity. And the attrition rate in Vedanta is very high, because at some point one gets disconnected from the connection. Very interesting. That's why the attrition rate is very high, because people come with what is that called? Soda bottle enthusiasm. You shake up a can of some aerated drink and you open it, you have a fountain. You have this wonderful fountain. And then what? And then everything is flat. This is again because the connection is not understood. And that's why options open up. Somebody says, catch the nose. Oh, okay. Well, that will cost $750. Oh, to catch my own nose, it's going to cost $750? Yes. all right, I'll give you $750. See, now you have vairagya, now you have, you are no longer interested in those $750. See, I have given you objectivity. I have given you the ability to let go by charging you exorbitant amounts. And then there is a breathing program. You don't need to be taught how to breathe. Even a child doesn't need to be newborn baby also knows how to breathe. At the most it requires a little spank from the doctor. It knows how to breathe. All it has to do is open the mouth, cry, breathing takes place. Bhagavan breathes for you. You don't have to breathe. Bhagavan is in charge of that function. It's prana devata that is in charge of the function. Who are you? You're not breathing at all. But here the breathing, some kind of breathing kriya is taught. Breathe your way to moksha. Oh, really? It's that easy? Absolutely. So what do I do? Breathe in moksha. And then what? Exhale samsara. Breathe in moksha. Exhale samsara. You just have to ask these people a very simple question. If moksha is in the air, literally, then why am I not catching it? Why is it much easier to catch the coronavirus than moksha? Why? If it's in the air, if it is air spread, why is it not? Why am I not, catching it? One question you ask. For these kinds of theologies and all kinds of philosophies are brought about, and all of them are answered so beautifully in the what is that, in the last Alata Shanti Prakarana of the great Grand Guru of Adi Shankara's Adi Shankara's commentary of Grand Guru's commentary. And Gaudapadacharya in the Alata Shanti Prakarana says that these are all little what we call it, little buzzing humming bees. What? Various philosophies. Touch this, touch that, bend here, go there, do that, go to pilgrimage, try for Brahmaloka, go for Brahmaloka. go for this phalam, this karma, that karma, keep doing. They are not all wrong. It's just that they are various points of view. And if you see them as points of view, then it is an objective view that you have. But when the point of view is mistaken for the view, the confusion ensues. That is the problem. The point of view is simply that. It is not the view. The view is that you are free of needing any kind of a support, needing anything. But if the breathing is going to help, please breathe in a disciplined way, whatever it is. These are all ancient bodies of knowledge. But don't go under the illusion that breathing is going to give you moksha. It is not. Because that connection has to be understood between the jnana and the result of the jnana, and which is moksha, which is freedom from samsara. What is the connection? There must be a connection, and that third connection here is sadhana sadhya sambandha. Sadhana sadhya sambandha, meaning between the knowledge and the result, the favorable result of not being, not being assailed by all of one's afflictions. There must be a connection, and that connection is the sadhana sadhya sambandha. Mokshaya sadhanam kim. What is the sadhana for moksha? And we have to say jnanam. So the moksha becomes sadhya, that which is to be attained. And then the jnana, the self-knowledge, again we bring in the guru, the teacher, and and all these other, the previous two connections we talked about. The self-knowledge handled by the teacher in the form of a pramana becomes the nimitta, the cause for this. For what? For moksha. So therefore the person, from being a floundering seeker of freedom, going here, going there, looking for some path, for some outlet, and not finding what one wanted, going to another thing and another thing, like a lost cause, is finally able to understand the connection between moksha and knowledge. Because knowledge gives moksha. Why? Because Atma is not to be attained. It is already attained. How is it already attained? Because you know you are. Atma has not to be established by the Shastra, because the Atma is already Siddha Vastu Vishaya. It is already Siddha. Siddha means it is already there. It doesn't have to be established. And so therefore it is not sadhya, it is not something to be established, because it's not something to be known as an object. Because there are only two ways to know something. Either it is self-revealing, or it has to be revealed by a means of knowledge, like sight, hearing, etc., etc. So if it is self-revealing, then you don't need a means of knowledge to reveal it, and the Atma happens to be self-revealing. In fact, it reveals everything else. And so therefore, if it is self-revealing, then it doesn't have to be established as an object. It cannot be known as an object. So then why do I need the Shastra? You need the Shastra to correct the mistake. That is why you need the Shastra. What mistake? Thinking yourself to be disconnected from everything. Thinking yourself to be alienated, fearful, tearful. That is why the Shastra is needed. So these three kinds of connections, are very, very important to assimilate. And upon their proper assimilation is dependent on how serious a student one is. And upon understanding and grasping these connections is contingent whether one will drop out or whether one will continue. This is what it is. And This is what Gaudapadacharya also says in the Alata Shanti Prakarna, in the text that he wrote, a kind of a commentary called Karika to the Mandukya Upanishad. In this he writes that we have, we must not present ourselves, he says, as always critical of what everybody is doing all the time. We have other business to do. And what is that? We accommodate all of them, knowing full well that these are many, many points of view that may be indirectly helpful to gain this knowledge. But what is Vedanta? The Vedanta is dependent upon, Vedanta is you. And you are the view. And so therefore you can have many points of view, but if you confuse the points of view for the view, that is the downfall, that is the pitfall. So what about all these various contentions? Let them be, let them fight with one another. No, I am right. No, I am right. Catch the nose, catch the toes, do this, go here, go there. God is like this, God is not like this, all kinds of contentions. Theological contentions. Let them hammer it out. Vedanta is not a theology, it's you. It's the knowledge of you. As the source of the entire universe. And so therefore it doesn't touch this, because those are all various points of view. Let them fight it out, and then let them destroy one another, because they cannot touch, because what we are talking about is mithya all the way. Mithya means a dependent reality, that which is dependent upon the Atma. And so therefore these connections, if they are understood, then alone we have the ability to connect to this knowledge, when the sambandha is understood. So therefore that was the second that was the gist of the second paragraph that we saw yesterday. Further, swayameva cha prayojanam aha. The Shruti, Brahmavid apnoti param, with the sentence that the knower of Brahman gains the ultimate. That the Shruti herself gives the prayojana, gives the purpose of this teaching. Adau eva sambandha prayojana jnapanartham. Jnapanartham doesn't mean reminding, it means introducing. Okay, contextually we have to take, because there is nothing to remind here. Adau eva means right at the beginning, the sambandha and the prayojana, the connection and the purpose of this study has already been, in order to introduce. That's how the Shruti starts with Brahmavid apnoti param. Why should the Shruti go immediately to the purpose right in the beginning? Because nirjnatayoho hi sambandha prayojanayoho hi asmat, because nirjnatayoho sambandha prayojanayoho vidya shravana grahana dharana abhyasartham pravartate. Sadhakah pravartate. So this is a absolute locative construction. Nirjnatayoho hi sambandha prayojanayoho. So nirjnatayoho means in the event of knowing what these deep connections between the Upanishad and oneself as the seeker, and how the Upanishad converts into knowledge because of the presence of the teacher who is unfolding the Upanishad, and how because the crux of the teaching of oneself as one with everything has to be revealed by removing all the other mistakes. And that is the purpose. The purpose is the removal of all kinds of unfavorable group anartha vrata, so all kinds of unfavorable group, host of difficulties, and which is called samsara. And so therefore, when you know this, when you know the connection between the book and your freedom, and when you know the purpose of this freedom is to be free of guilt and hurt and free of all wrong notions about the I, that when that is known, then only the human being pravartate. Pravartate means pursues, applies themselves. Pravartate, applies themselves, pursues, and who pursues? Lokaha, Janaha, and Sadhakaha. So you can say, however you want. The person who is the mumukshu pravartate. Mumukshu you can say. Jignasu you can say. The mumukshu, the desire of freedom, the desirer of freedom. Jignasu, the one who desires knowledge. Pravartate, finally goes on the right road. Applies themselves into what? Vidya Shravana Grahana Dharana Abhyasartham. So, Vidya Shravana Grahana Dharana Abhyasartham Pravartate. The subject is not there, but we can extrapolate. Janaha Pravartate. The people, go through this. The student, Shishyaha Pravartate. The student can apply himself or herself. For what? Vidya Shravana. In order to listen to the Vidya. Because it is something to be listened to, he is going to point that out very soon. Why listening? Because otherwise one gets in one's own way, one's own infrastructure, which is based on self non-acceptance, gets in the way of whatever is revealed by the Shastra, gets in the way. And so one does not take the message of the Shastra seriously, even if one understands it, even if one knows Sanskritam, even if one has studied, something or some language may be there, but one is unable to come to accept this knowledge, because if one reads, one is getting in one's own way. Tattvamasi, been there, done that, nothing happened. Next, you are Bhuma, big deal. Next, Atma is Brahman. Okay, And then you can just, drop these Mahavakyas, at the next party that you attend. And, it's kind of nice to listen. Atma is Brahman, wonderful. Let's just all sit and listen, just to keep on saying this. It's not something to keep on saying, it's something to assimilate. And so, if this is not understood, then one is unable to apply oneself to these teachings. So Vidya Shravanam, the listening to the teachings, because when you listen, it's more like a dialogue, and then when you listen, the pedagogies embodied in the teaching allow the teacher to click on the bypass button of all the critical parts of the buddhi, the thinking of the student. So it's just like when you go for an operation, you're made to relax and then nothing will happen, and the surgeon will be very, very reassuring. And looks unnecessarily cheerful and says, you seem to be fine, nothing will be happen. This is just routine. This I have done it so many times, it's nothing. Yours is just a regular case. There's not going to be any complications. Before you know it, you will be in the recovery room. So and even though you are suspicious, you cannot but go along with the surgeon's good mood, and so like that, the teacher also says, oh, this removal of avidya tumor has been done before. 5,000 years of tradition we have. And then the student who studied under the first teacher, the Lord in the form of Dakshinamurti Shiva, they all got enlightened. They were all free from samsara, and then they taught other people, like Sanaka taught Narada, and Narada taught somebody else, and then like this, the whole tradition started. The what is that called, the lineages started. And then in these lineages, it's not a big deal. This is also a tumor excising surgery. Tumor being wrong thoughts or wrong ideas about the Atma, that is the tumor. Here also we do some kind of thing, but it's a routine thing. It's happened many times before. In fact, even famous people have come to us, and then they have also become very great teachers as a result of having no avidya tumor. And so when you listen, you kind of get carried away by the optimism of the teacher, just like you are influenced by the optimism of the surgeon that you go visit, and you think, okay, I was having two minds about this surgery, but this person is so convincing, I think I will go for it. So same way. And then and built into the pedagogy is, just like in surgery there is anesthesia, so built into the pedagogy is also something to relax the student. And then in dental surgery in olden times they had laughing gas, and now we just have jokes, that's all. And so we have a few jokes, and then the person laughs despite themselves, not because they want to laugh. And sometimes, people are just so serious. They think, oh, I am studying Taittiriya Upanishad. It's a serious subject matter, and I shouldn't look here, I shouldn't look there, and I shouldn't even crack a smile, and I should just be like this, When some people think that. And then when I make a joke, like not just Taittiriya Upanishad, some of any Upanishad, this is Upanishad, this is serious matter. So if I make a joke, they feel like, oh, they're not getting the knowledge, because this is a joke. This is not a joke. This should be taken seriously. In fact, the joke is just for, relaxing the person. And the jokes are there. This is all, what should I say? This is all part of the pedagogy. And it's not that one thinks and says, nobody sits, no teacher of Vedanta will be sitting and thinking, what jokes will I make in today's class? That's not the idea. It just comes because you can't help laughing at certain things. You can't help laughing at the fact that the Atma, which is self-revealing, he becomes a sitting duck for all kinds of nonsensical thoughts about the I. You can't help laughing about the fact that which nothing afflicts is the most afflicted thing in the whole universe, namely the I. The whole paradoxes make you laugh. And you can't help laughing, you can't help smiling and laughing, thinking, and when you see that which is free of everything, takes on everything ironically. And the frantic efforts that one makes to get out of this scenario is also laughable. And what is most laughable is that even after knowing this, even after listening to it, one doesn't understand. That is also a joke. And so it's not that one is trying to make jokes, but the jokes have the jokes basically means seeing the absurdity of samsara. And therein lies therein lies a very possibility for redemption in this way, because therein lies that freedom. Because when you are able to laugh at yourself, then only it lightens up the whole thing. And so therefore so the jokes relax the person, and when the person is relaxed, the guards are down, the guardrails of the mind, the critical mind, critical of everything that it is listening to, critical of everything that it is ingesting, questioning the teaching, questioning this, questioning oneself, of course. And so here that part is just shut off. In fact, when Pujya Swamiji used to teach, many people used to come in the beginning because they liked the jokes. For many years, for several retreats, they would come, same joke, but they would love to, because each time Pujya Swamiji told it, he used to make it alive. And new masala would be there. And so they would come for the jokes. And then they would be just so happy with the jokes. Then, then after that, once I saw a group of gentlemen, elderly gentlemen, near where they served tea at the ashram, and they were reliving the jokes and just laughing their heads off. It was so cute. And, then after a while, then what are these jokes revealing about the I? How are these jokes pertinent? That is when that understanding took place. But it took a while. So in the beginning, people just come for the laughs, and then they stay on later on, and they understand because now they are relaxed. And they know that nobody is indoctrinating me, nobody is trying to brainwash me. All these fears are there. Nobody is trying to convert me into something that I don't want. All these fears are there. And so therefore, Vidya, what did that say? Vidya Shravana. Vidya Shravana, Shravanartham. So the Shravanam is the first and the Mukhya Sadhana for Atmajnanam. The main recourse for self-knowledge is to be able to sit and listen with great focus and with an open heart and an open mind. And only when you listen in this way, then only it is properly assimilated. So with Shraddha and Samadhanam, with a single-minded focus, when one listens with reverence to what is being taught and with attention. So that is Vidya Shravana. And then what happens is Grahanam takes place. Grahanam takes place means one is able to grasp the meaning of the Shastra as it applies to one's own life. One is able to make that connection between the teaching and one's own existence. So that is Grahana. And also we can say Grahana Shakti means to be the quickness with which one can understand the connections. That is also there. Then it's not enough to grasp the connections. The dharana should be there. Dharana means the ability to hold on to what was taught. And that is again a really great blessing. The ability to hold on to what was taught is very much there. And then what? Then the dharana and then abhyasa. Dharana abhyasartham. Abhyasa means the ability to revel in that, to repeat that, to repeatedly do Shravanam, the commitment. Abhyasa here is commitment. So that committed listening and that commitment to grasping the teachings, the purport of the teaching, as it applies to one's own life, and the assimilation, the deep assimilation of the knowledge takes place only when the connections are properly appreciated. Otherwise, there just will be attrition. Attrition means dropping off. Yes, it sounded wonderful. And then usually what happens is that, when one takes to Vedanta in the beginning, things all go well. And then some of the difficulties which led the person to come to Vedanta, to come to Upanishad study, gets lifted off by the grace of Ishvara, really. And then the person says, oh, I am all better now, so I can stop. That's why you have to come. That's why in the everyday realm, when person takes antibiotic for some infection, then the course is, let's say, 8 days, 7 days, 10 days, and there will be a writing on the bottle. You may feel better in 2 or 3 days. Do not stop. When you feel better in 2 or 3 days, complete the entire course. Otherwise, the infection may recur. So same thing. This is, this is like the this is the antibiotic pill for samsara. There is a course here, and then one stays to complete the course. Otherwise, samsara comes back stronger, more immune, and with a vengeance. So that is, so therefore, this vidya shravana grahana dharana abhyasartham janah pravartate. And then he states very beautiful, Shravanadi Purvakam hi Vidyaphalam. Vidyaphalam we can take as, just the direct Vichheda, Vidyayaha Phalam, the fruit of this knowledge, the result of this knowledge, which is freedom from samsara, that is called Vidyaphalam. Or we can take it as Vidya eva phalam, Vidya phalam. Vidya itself is the fruit, the self-knowledge itself is the point of this Shravanam. It's not that the self-knowledge has to then give something else. The self-knowledge itself is enough because it has revolutionized the way you see anything, starting with your own body-mind complex. And so Shravanadi Purvakam, keeping Shravanam in the forefront alone, is this, is the fruit of this knowledge, is dependent upon Shravanam. And he quotes the famous Shruti in the Brihadaranyaka, the dialogue between sage Yajnavalkya and his wife Maitreyi. Maitreyi asks for this knowledge, and in response, the Yajnavalkya, the husband turned teacher, says, Atma va are drashtavyah Shrotavyo mantavyo nididhyasitavyah. So Atma has to be as good as seen. Like when you see something, there is no doubt of its existence and its nature. So in the same way, Atma has to be as good as seen, meaning deeply understood. Darshanartham kim kartavyam. In order to see this, what should I do? In order to see the Atma, what should I do? Shrotavyah. You have to listen to it from a person who is qualified to teach it. Mantavyah. If the Shravanam is enough, then there is nothing more needed, because the listening is the direct sadhana for freedom from samsara, and that is how the phala is gained. But then sometimes the listening is done in a many times the listening is done in a selective way. One is a selective shrota, selective listener. Why? Because the things that resonate with one's own patterns, chronic patterns and issues, are immediately assimilated, and the things that go contrary to one's own chronic patterns are rejected. Supposing there is a self-esteem issue that somebody is having, and one is told, you are the cause of the entire universe, one can just bat it down and say, okay, this is not very interesting because I don't believe you. I don't believe this. And it's not a belief, it's something to be understood. No. This is how it is. And so therefore this selective listening takes place. And so therefore the listening has to be honed in. Shrotavyah, one must hear about the I. The self-knowledge is something to be imparted, transmitted by somebody who has received it from their teacher, who received it from their teacher endlessly. A long lineage of teachers going back to Ishvara. And so therefore, the listening, if it is inhibited, then there are doubts, vagueness, error in the assimilation of the knowledge, and therefore we need what is called the next line of upaya, which is the mananam. Mananam, meditation, the ability to do some inquiry into the Shastra, and then either on one's own as one has been taught, or asking the teacher questions, discussing with other students, etc., etc. All this comprises what is called mananam. Mananam does not produce knowledge. Shravanam alone is that which is the sadhana, which is the means for gaining moksha. What mananam does is that the knowledge that is riddled with doubts and errors those doubts and errors are freed from the knowledge that one has assimilated. That is the contribution of mananam. Then again, now the person doesn't have any doubts. And now the person also has understood the Atma is Brahman, etc. But then does not behave like Brahman. Is still afflicted, is still upset, is still fearful, is still somehow, because of certain habits, those habitual orientations, one is stuck in some kind of a rut, even though one knows one knows full well, I am Brahman, but still there is this inability to connect with that knowledge and to live that knowledge on an everyday basis. So when that happens, one needs a kind of a contemplation called nididhyasanam. From dhyai, to meditate. Nididhyasana means to contemplate. And so this contemplation is very important, because what do you contemplate on? You revel on those words from the Upanishad that reveal who you are. You regurgitate that knowledge, and like the cow sitting and chewing the cud. So similarly, the student of Vedanta, goes and chews on the grasses of the Upanishad, and in the hurry to just assimilate everything, eats too fast. And now is the time to slowly digest those grasses. And just like the cow, that brings it up and chews it properly again after it has eaten. And then that is what is nididhyasanam. And so nididhyasanam rids one of habitual orientations, and then mananam makes the knowledge free of doubts and mistakes. Like this, and if Shravanam is not enough, these two come into the picture. Whereas we saw that in the Chandogya Upanishad, Shvetaketu only needed 9 classes. 9 times he had to be taught and he was free. And so those are all ideal, typical students, I suppose. And so therefore what? So here, Shrotavyo Mantavyo Nididhyasitavyaha iti Shruti Antarebhyaha. This is according to a different Shruti, another Shruti. That is what he says. And this concludes the very important and piercing, I would say, so what is called Sambandha Bhashya. And then now we will enter the text. Om Brahmavida apnoti param tadesha bhyukta satyam jnanamanantam brahma yo veda nihitam guhayam parame vyoman सोऽश्नुते सर्वान् कामान् सः ब्रह्मणा विपश्चितेति तस्माद्वा एतस्मादात्मन आकाशः सम्भूतः आकाशाद्वायुः वायोरग्निः अग्नेरापः अद्भ्यः पृथिवी पृथिव्या ओषधयः ओषधीभ्योऽन्नम् अन्नात् पुरुषः स वा एष पुरुषोऽन्नरसमयः तस्येदमेव शिरः अयं दक्षिणः पक्षः अयमुत्तरः पक्षः अयमात्मा इदं पुच्छं प्रतिष्ठा तदप्येष श्लोको भवति. Yeah, so this is the first mantra of Anandavalli. And then, so here he has a few things to say about this. But before, let us just see the meaning of what is this. Brahmavid apnoti param. The knower of Brahman gains what is called param. What is this param? Param means limitless. Param means ultimate. And here, in our daily experiences, the word ultimate has shifting meanings. The word ultimate is always shifting from one thing to another. For the child, the security blanket is the ultimate. And then, as the child grows, then something else is ultimate. And then there was even a game, Frisbee, that was called ultimate. And then after that, the ultimate still changes. And then so because in the universe, one is always looking at the finite and interacting with the finite and wanting it to be infinite. Wanting that to be infinite. So the infinite is not an object that one can interact with. The infinite is you, and the infinite is ever experienced. It is in the form of Anubhuti Swarupa. It is in the form of that which is experienced all the time. So that is what is that infinite is you. It cannot be outside of you. It cannot be other than you. It cannot not include you. That is what is the ultimate. That is param. Whereas whatever you desire, whatever you go after, whatever you want, whatever you pursue, whatever you gain, whatever you lose, all are finite, non-ultimate, relative, not absolute. And so the pursuit of the relative, the pursuit of the finite, when, for how long? Infinite pursuit of the finite is what is the manifestation of samsara. Samsara is nothing but the infinite pursuit of the finite, and then hoping and praying, please make it infinite. How can even Bhagavan cannot do that? Because it goes against the very nature of Bhagavan's own law, that the whole world is made up of finite objects, and the onlooker, you, is the only one that is infinite, that is free, that is not subject to any kind of constrictions, and that is what has to be understood. And so therefore the finite is mistaken for the infinite. This is what is samsara. And so therefore what this param means, that which never comes to an end. That is what is param. Never comes to an end. It's infinite. It is free. It is whole. It is limitless. And that's what one wants. Because gaining which, apnoti, ap to gain, apl, to gain, gaining which one does not want anything else. That is what is the meaning of ultimate. So this is what, this is what is this is what is wanted, this is what is gained, this is what is understood, this is what is needed, because this is what is pursued in life, whether one knows it or not, whether one wants it or not, this is what is pursued. Everybody wants the infinite, or everybody wants that which never comes to an end. And what is it that never comes to an end? You. And here that is called Brahman. From, and this Adi Shankara is going to talk about, Brihi Vriddhau. Brihi Vriddhau means that which is big. The root of the word Brahman is Brihi Vriddhau plus a pratyaya plus a suffix called manin. And so that's how you get the word Brahman. So this brihi briddhau, it is vague because it just means big. But the word big is an adjective, is it not? It is not a noun. It is an adjective because, if you tell me, if something is big, I will say how big. Bring me something big. How big? Mountain big. Mustard seed big. What kind of big? And if I were to say, look at this big mustard seed, look at this huge sesame seed, you're not going to look up because you know the size of all sesame seeds, and the big sesame seeds must be somewhere here to look on the surface somewhere. But if I say, look at this huge mountain, then you know where to look. You look up at the sky to see where it is reaching, where it is piercing the horizon, and seems to be just endlessly going up in space. So this big is an adjective, but here in the Upanishad, the big, Brahman, meaning big, is a noun. It is, there's a lot of grammatical acrobats that are going on here, which we'll see, but the big is a noun. How can the adjective become a noun? That's how. Adjective has become a noun. How can the adjective become a noun? The adjective becomes a noun because we are talking of that because of which everything is qualified, itself is unqualified. That is why it is big without any limits. It is big, it is limitless. So when you say limitless, it's not a, limitlessness. It's not an adjective, it's a noun. So if you say limitless, then maybe you can use it as an adjective. But here it is limitlessness. It is bigness. It is not big as in lotus flower big, rose flower big. No. It is bigness embodied. It is bigness personified. It is bigness incarnate. And that is what is Brahman. That is what you want to be. You want to be big. Nobody wants to be small. In fact, smallness is, it just pricks the sides like a thorn. Smallness is, unfathomably unbearable. Nobody wants to be small. But since one doesn't know that one is already big, one tries to be big through various things like achievements and like collecting things. I am a huge collector and I own so many things. And then what else, I have, sometimes people collect things and sometimes people collect degrees. And somebody said I have 3 PhDs. And the question that arose in my mind, which I did not ask, is why? That's what I wanted to ask. Why? Why did you do this to yourself? But that's, this is exactly this is a form of collection. People collect all kinds of things to make up for this sense of lack, to make up for this sense of incompleteness. Because one wants to be bigness alone, one wants to be bigness itself, and one doesn't understand that one is bigness personified. One is Brahman, because of which even this miserable collection of degrees or pedigrees exists. And so that one doesn't understand. So therefore, in order to understand this, one has to become Brahmavit, the knower of Brahman. The knower of the I, the knower of Brahman. And then what does that Brahmavit do? Apnoti, gains the ultimate. And then how? But if one is already Brahman, how can one gain Brahman? The word gain is again used within apostrophes. It's an as though gain. But it is talked about as a gain because it's the gain of the freedom of samsara. It's the gain of something that is already been gained, yes. But then it is talked about as a gain in order to, this Adi Shankara is going to tell us, in order to lure the people, to be interested in this knowledge, to say that, oh, okay, this is, I'm going to get something out of this, and that which I'm going to get is something very, very, very favorable. More we'll see next week. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadagya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you.